Hey there, intellectuals. I want to take a moment to thank our incredible sponsor, NextStage AI. NextStage AI is transforming the way government contractors approach business development, capture management, and pipeline development activities. Whether you're a small startup or a seasoned prime contractor, NextStage AI is your central go to tool for streamlining your operations, optimizing proposal strategies, and enhancing competitive advantage. NextStage AI is a comprehensive CRM, pipeline, and BD tool designed to aid in the effective collaboration of the entire business development lifecycle, from your opportunity identification, qualification, capture, to proposal tracking. It empowers every organization to make faster and more informed bid decisions. Make NextStage AI your strategic partner. Visit NextStage AI to learn more and see how they can elevate your business. Thank you, Next Stage, for your unwavering support of Tan's Two Cents. Now, let's get to today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Tan's Two Cents podcast. Today's episode is part of the C-Suite series. Today, we're talking to a Chief Technology Evangelist, leading the technology in her role. Today, we're going to discuss the intersection of innovation and implementation in the technology sphere. I'm your host, Ton Wilson, and joining us today is Indira Rice Donegan from Red River. She is a trailblazer in technology evangelism. Indira, thanks for joining us here today. And please say hello to our listeners, the intellectuals, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your technology journey.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Ton. And great to meet everybody on the podcast, too. Thank you all for listening. And hopefully, Ton and I will make this exciting and fun for another 60-minute commute you might have to burn on the Beltway or something. But I'm
Exactly,
really
right?
pleased to be here. Well,
Yeah, no, there's going to be a lot of girl talk and probably a lot of talking over because you and I talk at a very rapid, fast
you know,
pace. So we will make this hour go long.
I know, and honestly, you're one of those people where when you first meet, it's just kind of like electric, right? You are just absolute
Oh,
electric, sunshine, joy, energy, and I like to think I'm a high energy person too, but I know people like us can wear out folks too really easy. So when you find your kind of matching twin out there, it's just like a lot of fun and it's hard to keep it focused. Like we're already off topic, so let
I
me get
know,
let me get
right?
focused here.
You're like my soul sister. It's like when you find someone who matches your energy and is excited in this field as you are, you can't help but gravitate towards each other, which is, I think, why you are so electric and magnetic out there. People want to hear from you, people want to be around you, and things
I
like that.
appreciate that.
So, positive energy begets positivity. So,
1000%. And you learn that in the military too. So obviously, I have, if there are anyone watching the podcast rather than listening to it, I am a former Army veteran, combat veteran, 23 years as a signal officer. And so, all this stuff in my office is basically a collection of some of the trinkets and thank you gifts from units and soldiers that I interacted with throughout my 23 years in the United States Army. And that's really kind of how I got my start in technology. I was the antithesis of a soldier and of a technologist growing up. My dad was in the Air Force as an SP. That's kind of like a military police officer in the Air Force, but very technical. He was a pilot, loved to fly, ended up getting out of the Air Force and joining the FAA, being a nav aid inspector. And so, certainly an acumen for technical stuff. And we had technical things happening, technical discussions happening in our house. My mom was a linguist by trade from Panama. So married my father when he was stationed in Panama, and they came to the United States, and she really put herself through school. She started her own business. She spoke 6 languages on her own and started her business with that, and then grew it into one of the largest interpretation and translation companies in the Pacific Northwest before selling it. So just, it was cool because I got my first job when I was 14, learning how to manage her books on, Excel spreadsheets. This is like before we really were even playing with QuickBooks and things like that. And I remember getting her first kind of 6-disc with a bunch of floppies, like those, little floppies that we would use. And she was like, I need you to help learn how to do this. And she just assumed because, I was younger, I would be able to help her. But it was a deep dive into just figuring things out from a technical perspective. But I loved music. I wanted to be a musician more than anything. I played piano from the time I was, about 2 years old, and picked up lots of instruments throughout my youth. So played the drums, played the trumpet. Piano was always the key instrument, but I loved to sing. And I had lots of opportunities to sing with great bands and great companies, great choirs growing up as well. And I did that throughout college, but my parents were like, we're not paying you for a musical degree. That's not happening. You need to get a degree that will pay the bills and get you off our payroll. So I went into chemistry and English as a major at the University of Oregon. And then just playing with, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? Ultimately graduated with a degree in linguistics and Spanish literature. And that was a super fun, exciting time in my life because I was exploring a lot of things and I had a lot of support to do it. And ROTC paved the way for me to do it financially. Never thought I would do that, but I couldn't afford to pay for school. I didn't want to take time off to work. And my parents were in a tax bracket that on paper they were, I wasn't going to score any kind of scholarships. So ROTC gave me a full ride, and the rest is history. I picked the signal branch, which is all the orange kind of stuff that you see. That's the signal branch color. And I figured I would just do 4 to 8 years max, do my whatever like the recruitment contract time was for going to school with ROTC, and then I'd get out. And sure enough, if I stayed signal in communications IT, I'd learn some really good skill set, you know. And so that was the plan, but I loved it. I loved the teamwork. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the brotherhood, sisterhood aspect of military work. It's so much more than a job. Like everyone says that, but it really is a lifestyle and a profession of arms that you need to take very seriously. And I loved the leadership. I loved being able to take care of people and helping people to achieve their dreams because I kind of felt like I was always achieving mine and I
Yeah,
wanted to, help other
kind of
people. Yeah,
pass that on.
and I don't want to sound like cheesy, like, people are like, "I just want to help people and pass along." Like, honestly, it's super addictive to, like, help people. It's addictive. If you've got an addictive personality and you wanna do something healthy with it, focus your time and energy volunteering to make other people successful. Because when they achieve stuff with your assistance, there's no other high like it. None. Whether it's a job, an opportunity, even just coaching to get somebody on stage for the first time. Next thing you know, they've got a career made out of it. I mean,
Mhm,
it is so fun to be a part of someone's win, you know?
mhm. Yeah,
And
that's the whole premise of consulting. You know what I mean? Like I'm part of everyone because everyone's like, Ton, why don't you bid after these contracts yourself or what? Because I don't want to. I don't
right.
want the headache of having to do this. But it's so rewarding to be able to see people's success and be part of like all of this.
Yeah.
And I love your family history and background because I swear, if you weren't my sister from another mister from like before, you are now because same thing, right? My dad flew helicopters. He was in the South Vietnamese Air Force.
Oh my god.
Like my mother worked like two jobs as a seamstress, and she was always so industrious. And so I learned so much from, like her just never staying, like she was never still. And so like I feel like I'm the same way. I have a chemistry degree.
Oh my god, that's awesome. I love
How
it.
do we not know this? And so yeah, it's like I've got a chemistry degree too, and I've done a whole ton of volunteering previously. I think initially I did it for the notoriety of it, and then it becomes so addicting because you see the impact that you make on such very little. Like you would do the littlest things, and it would mean the world to whoever it is that you're helping or mentoring and supporting. And so you can't stop doing it after that.
You really can't. And I think, I like highlighting the fact that having immigrant parents, they really do, generally speaking, at least in my experience and from friends that I've made in my generation, our immigrant parents, whether it's both of them or one of them, they were such a driver in making sure that you were applying yourself to be excellent at whatever you were doing. Like, it didn't matter if I was studying a language or playing, practicing piano. Like, my mom was very disciplinarian, right? She's, tiger moms on the Asian side are very similar to the Latina moms, on the Hispanic side. They really invest themselves in their children, and they sacrifice a lot for their children. But there's an expectation where sometimes that gets missed in other cultures. I think in ours, it's very predominant that you are just, it's ingrained in you that you must figure out a way to pay that back, in some way, shape, or form, because the parents sacrifice so very much. And there's this also like a very heightened sense of family pride, regardless of your financial level. My mom grew up extremely poor. She was the first one in her entire bloodline to go to college. The first one to really marry and have a family without having a lot of trauma or drama tied into that narrative. She really made life choices that put her in a position to make the best life for herself, where so many, they kind of fall into like the most evil aspects of life. You know what I mean? Just to get by, just to survive. And I love her story because to me, it's just a reminder that there is a way. There's always a way. Like, there's always a way up. There's always a way out. You just got to want it. You have to want it more than any easy, soft, gentle thing that you might think in the interim will be enough to, keep you going. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but like, I also had a very healthy fear of failure because of my
Yeah.
parents and how hard they worked and how much they expected of me. And yet I never doubted their love for me. And I never
Yeah.
thought their love was dependent on how many A's I brought in or how many achievements and awards I was winning. But I was still very driven to, overachieve for sure, based
Yeah.
on their
No,
example.
we have, yeah, Asian moms are very much like that. So, and then I
Yeah.
think that really, I think that really kind of highlights and is telling about what you've been able to accomplish. And so, before we go into our main discussion here for today, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm curious to hear about this. But what inspired you to get into the technology field and to become a technology evangelist? I can see why you do it. But technology, considering, like the background that you have, why technology?
I mean, why not technology? Honestly, I think that was my mindset from the very beginning. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was commissioned in the Army in 99, right after I graduated from college. And so I basically graduated, and a week later, I was off to Fort Gordon, Georgia, now Fort Eisenhower, in Augusta, Georgia, to begin my technical training as a second lieutenant in the Signal Corps to learn the Army's technology that was driving mission support to ensure we were getting the message through from the battlefield, front lines, all the way back into headquarters, overseas to allied partners. That's a lot. I mean, you're learning a lot of kind of basic foundational stuff for tactical communications. You're understanding how to lay in a satellite backbone. You're understanding how to leverage things, not just at a tactical level for comms, but what does that mean at the operational level? What does that mean at the strategic level for echelons above corps, where 4-star generals are having to interact every minute with the leaders of our country to make, life or death decisions for our men and women on the battlefield. It was certainly a lot, but I felt like it was exciting, and it was like, well, why not do this? If I look at all my options, do I want to go into finance in the Army and learn how to be a bookkeeper and do pay and deal with people's pay stubs or fix things that are wrong when they're not getting something done correctly with their, no, I don't want, that's a headache. I don't want it. Do I want to go into AG, Adjutant General? Like, the highlight there for me when it was explained to me, which is not true, but this is why I didn't pick it. They're like, the highlight of your career will be to run a post office in the Army. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Now, that's not true. So hopefully nobody comes from us in the comments that actually was AG in the Army. We love you. We know that your work was very important. Thank you for your contributions. Um, that was it. And in 99, I couldn't go into combat arms. And frankly, I had no desire to do that. I mean, most women don't want to do that. Going to get controversial here. there is no reason why a woman shouldn't be allowed to do it if she can maintain the standard of her male counterparts that have to be met in order to ensure that if your 180-pound battle buddy male counterpart has to do something, gets hit on the battlefield, can you drag him off at 5'5" and 110 pounds soaking wet? So as long as you can meet the standard and take care of the unit that you're in, there are a few women
Yeah.
out there who absolutely have it physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and they should be given and afforded every opportunity to crush
Wholeheartedly
it.
agree with you. Wholeheartedly agree with
But
you.
don't make it mandatory for all women, because not all women want to do that. I mean, some of the
Right.
toughest jobs in our country, bricklayers, trash collectors, engineers that are climbing physically, thousands of feet in the air on things like, your average woman doesn't want to do that. And that's okay. There should be no shade thrown on an individual for what they want to do or don't want to do. It's their choice. As long as it's a good, healthy choice, we should encourage it, just encourage and support. That's kind of my viewpoint.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I find technology interesting too. So like my answer to that is why not? Because it's ever evolving. So let's just dive into our first segment here of our discussion,
Yeah.
like the role of a technology evangelist. We know technology officers and other things, other titles, but what does your role entail, and how do you inspire technology innovation within your organization and within industry?
Well, what I love most about being a chief technology evangelist is, first of all, a lot of people are not familiar with the title yet, even though it's been around for over 20 years. So Guy Kawasaki of Apple was the first chief technology evangelist, or at least the first one to coin that phrase within Apple. And his definition of it is, my role is to galvanize support for anything and everything, internal and external, this company needs to be successful. So you're really a jack of all trades. But if we peel that back just a little bit more and kind of frame it around what I do at my company, it's really almost more of like an outward facing CTO, right? Or a CTO light is what I like to call it. You're somebody who has the technical acumen to dive deep into the most disruptive techs that are available today for your customer base. But you understand them at a capability level, not necessarily a brand favorite level, so that you can be more open with the discussion, right? To really go wherever that customer might need to be, but then also kind of pivot based on their constraints, whether it's timing, technical acumen of their staff to employ that technology, or even just constraints financially on how much they can purchase or what they can purchase at any given time to solve a problem. And so I love that ability of it is to kind of be out front, always talking about the technology that we think is most useful in the space for our customers' different problem sets. But you have some pretty specific responsibilities as a CTE, just like you would as a CTO or a CRO or CHRO. And for me, I think technology advocacy and communication is numero uno. And so, like, I'm very, very active on my LinkedIn. I try not to make it a subsidiary page for my company, even though I love my company. It's really more about my ability to advocate for technology that I think is important for the people in our GovCon technology circles that are making a big difference, and just the ability to communicate about what we're doing, the problems that we're having, sharing this stuff, not suffering in silence, like just talking about it openly. Maybe we love certain technologies. Maybe we absolutely can't stand certain providers for very valid reasons, but we're so constrained, we need to be able to openly talk about it. So I
Yeah,
kind of get to do that, promote the company's technology solutions to external audiences and really include potential customers, partners, and even media sometimes,
yeah.
to help
I like how you
accelerate.
I like how you explain that, is to separate the technology from the provider, because a lot of times we associate a certain technology with a certain provider. And so we get so into, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that. And it's like when you
Yeah.
ask them why, it's not based on the technology, the feature, or the benefit that you derive from it. It's basically, oh, well, I don't like this company or I don't like this provider. It's like, well, that's
Right.
that's really not a good reason. You have to see
Yeah.
beyond that.
Well, I started my industry career jumping into a business development role with NetApp. Fantastic company, fantastic solutions. I was really familiar with them with my time in the military. About 65% of the Army's data today runs on NetApp. So it's unlikely that you would go in the IT space to like a data center or even out in the field and not see NetApp technology there. So there was a level of familiarity, when I took that position. But being able to explain really technical concepts in a really accessible way, that's not only important for me as a CTE, it was super critical for me to do that in BD. And so I find myself doing a ton of just, very legit strategic level BD work here in this role and working alongside all the different BD folks at my company and loving it, and actually like I'm trying to create opportunity. I'm trying to ferret out new opportunities in some of these discussions I'm having where maybe an internal focused CTO, for example, definitely not the case at our company because everybody's focused on BD and selling at Red River. And that's why I love it. But I've noticed in a lot of other companies, like a standard traditional CTO is going to be focused on just technology and really how it's employed in a practice. They
Mhm.
don't really care about talking to customers or I'm not going to say they don't care about talking to customers. It's just that's not the most important thing to them. It's not
Yeah.
what they're paid to do. They're paid to be the smartest on certain technology and the
Yeah.
employment of said technology. And then we've got sellers and BDers to go and create opportunity and
Yeah.
find customers. You know what I mean?
But not to be snarky about that, but sometimes you may not want a CTO, a certain type of CTO,
Oh
customer
yeah.
facing,
Oh,
right?
definitely,
So
for
it's like,
sure.
no, please
Yeah,
do
no,
not let
I
him
have
in front
seen
of a
so
customer.
many terrible ones, and I hate to say that. I won't say any names, obviously, but like I love my CTO at my company. He's got so much experience. His name's Dan Kent, and he's got tons of experience with Cisco and so many other companies. And I actually love bringing him with me to very high level meetings because he's got this phenomenal background of technology in the industry, but then he also understands from a corporate perspective all the different requirements of a CTO and how those things need to be employed at different levels across your go-to-market strategy, and
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic. That's sort of the kind of what we want to do wherever we are. I think if we're in a technical position is
Yeah.
just get as much bang for the buck, for the customer at the end of the day and always keep them first.